Kia ora koutou. My name is Michael and I am a recovering management accountant. In this webinar, we're going to discuss the pain points that I know you're facing right now. Some of the changes that are to come with AI, cloud, customer-centric organizations, Agile. And I'm going to give you some solutions, some ways forward. Not only a nirvana approach, but something you can do right now to make not only your lives easier, but to give more value to your organization. The world is changing. We've heard it before, haven't we? For most of us, we remember the 2008 global financial crisis. I was there with you. I was a fixed asset accountant and things were changing all around me. I was hearing this term Agile. I was hearing customer centricity. I was being told that my job would no longer be required because I'll be replaced. We've become more important than ever. Financial reporting, budgeting, fixed constraints, net present value, return on investment, return on equity. These are so important to your organization. Though sometimes you may feel like a gatekeeper, I can promise you by the end of this webinar, we're going to maneuver you into being an enabler of value. And that's where I want to focus finance in the future. For me, it started when I was 14. I was an assistant bookkeeper working on physical manual T-ledger accounts. It was fun. I then focused on accounts payable, accounts receivable, and then overall assistant accountant to accountant, fixed asset accountant. Where it changed for me was trying to get more done with the same resources. I wasn't allowed to hire anybody. I wasn't allowed to get any external funding for IT projects. We had to make do with our budgets and our people. And this allowed me to really focus on not only new ways of working, but culture improvements and how the technology that we could utilize that we already have better. I really enjoyed my finance days. Since then, I've moved into transformations of organizations. The last decade, I've worked with similar people just like you in developing their culture, to looking at new ways of working, to adapting leadership practices. But one of the key areas that I always seem to come back to is how work is done and how we measure that work. When we look at the overall cost allocation, I'm going to walk through with you how we split an organization up into maintaining an organization, continuously improving the organization, and changing it. That's where you come in. As finance people, you understand these figures. You are imperative to be involved in the conversation. As Oracle CEO once said, the CFO is the co-pilot in this transformation and in this organization. Your skills are needed and it's time for them to shine. So let's talk about pain points. I did a quick survey of my finance buddies to talk about what is confusing them or what is their current pain points. Transparency and accountability came up tops, swiftly followed by yearly budgets being quite, frankly, annoying. And I get that because especially as your organization goes through an agile transformation from the IT department, there tends to be this fixation that there's no planning involved. There's a lot of planning involved in Agile. Both daily, sprints if you're using sprints, quarterly, and yearly. The key difference is that you're normally working off a hypothesis. So I could hypothesize I'm going to make $1 million. However, if in the first 10 days, I realize that my assumptions are incorrect, I need to cancel that project. It saves the $200,000 cost for the project. And it doesn't mean that my watermelon style projects go from green to red. And then I have to ask you for more money because I've already invested $600,000, so I may as well invest another $200,000. Yearly budgets are quite frustrating. I think we all know where you have a 3-year strategy and you're drawing down funds on a yearly basis, people think they're theirs and they will always spend them. They'll spend their budget to ensure they get in the budget the next year, and they'll spend their project budgets even if the ROI is less than what they hypothesized at the start. The third thing that I'm hearing a lot about is reporting. And this is probably because a lot of people have moved into Jira, or they're not reporting up enough information. If everything is in one place, reporting becomes a much simpler process. As finance people, I expect you to be pushing for a single source of truth, or at least a data warehouse or data lake to ensure you can pull that information when you need to. Most work is split into 3 types of work: maintaining, continuous improvement, and change. When we look at from a business point of view, their pain points are not understanding their run cost, not understanding how to prioritize their backlog, and the time to market is substantially longer than the customer wants. Organizations need to adapt and adapt to customer need and respond to the changing environments and do it in a flexible way. If they don't do this, they will fail. Organizations currently are like big oil tankers that have many leaks. They don't know they're going down, but they are. And the problem is because they don't have the data or the reports to see it. So we're going to quickly have a look at if your organization moves into agile ways of working or has greater agility, they probably come up with what's called a single source of truth and a single backlog. So one backlog for the entire organization. And what is a backlog? It is a set of to-do lists from start to finish in priority order. This is where they need you. They need the skill sets to ensure they can prioritize effectively. So if we split work into 3 distinct phases, which is maintaining the organization or the operating spend or OPEX, continuously improving, which is about reducing your maintenance cost, and new fun stuff or your CapEx cost. This not only helps the knowledge workers deliver more value, it helps your leaders understand what their cost makeup is and allows better strategic alignment to their 3 horizon goals. How much should we invest in our OPEX? How much should we invest in our CapEx? Now, I know there is some IRD or IRS regulations around this, but we need to put that aside for the moment and think in terms of operation or OPEX should be about maintaining your business, and CapEx should be about changing your business. And when we talk about change and maintain, they are both as important as each other, but maintenance will always have a higher priority. If you don't maintain your customers, you'll lose them. Continuous improvement, though, is something that most organizations don't even look at, and yet has the highest ROI. And you can see this. If you have 10 people and 7 are working on OPEX and 3 are working on CapEx, and you are able to do a program of work that reduces your OPEX spend from 7 to 6, allowing 1 more person to start working on CapEx projects, not only do you save that FTE at the start, but you're now able to utilize that FTE appropriately on greater results for your CapEx spend. So the highest priority is always at the bottom. Then we got to think about values. What are the values of your organization? Is it financial? Is it about happy customers? Cutting costs? Or sustainability? Could be climate sustainability, or it could even be a sustainable business model that will allow your organization to grow over time. You need to understand how this is calculated and make it a number. Now, finance is quite easy. So financial benefits are always pretty easy. They're dollars and cents, very easy. Customer satisfaction means you need to understand your customer. So when people say it's an increased customer satisfaction by 15%, you need to ask the question, how is that related to the bottom line? And you may get some eye rolling, and that's okay. If a customer over the lifetime is worth $1 million, a 15% increase in customer satisfaction could increase that by $150,000 over its lifetime. If you're classifying lifetime spend as an ROI on 3 years, then you know you've got $50,000 per year. If the project costs $150,000, it's net zero. It doesn't even meet your internal rate of return. It's not worth it. And this is how you can give value just right at the start of this process. Cutting costs can be quite simple, but we must remember it's not just cutting costs, it's also FTE reallocation. And what does that mean? It means that if you are to take one person and be able to make them, if you were able to allow those people to do something that brings more customer satisfaction, more financial return, you've lowered the cost of the FTE count and repositioned that onto greater things that increases customer value and employee value. You need to weigh these up. You need a metrics that allows you to weigh these things up. Now, this could be finances could be 50% of your weighted average. Customer satisfaction could be 30%, cutting costs 20%. Whatever you choose, it allows you to get a mathematical approach to delivering that value and prioritizing your backlog. So now you've suddenly got 100 items in your backlog. 30 of them are highest priorities that maintain your business. Your projects are below that, but you can now see that the projects that move the dial the most will have the highest priority. Then there's a capacity allocation, in which resources are actually needed to complete this piece of work. I expect management accountants to be very involved in the team capacity for development, understanding how every initiative is going to allow the organization to thrive. Now, if there's a constraint and one team or individual or department is needed more than any other, then everybody else is not maximized. And if you want to maximize utilization in your organization, you need to understand the size of every initiative, at least a thumbsuck. And we can do this by the Fibonacci sequence, which tells us to relative size something against something else. So when you understand your key skills involved in or departments, you can use Fibonacci and relative sizing to say, this is roughly the same size as this project. This is roughly the same size as this one. This is slightly bigger, so I'll put it as this size. We need to know the objectives, which customer we're focusing on, a way of measuring KPIs so we can do benefit realization properly. Skills required. It is the what, not the how. So I expect people to come to the finance department and look towards giving the what, not the how. What problem are they solving? Who is it for? What is the hypothesized return on investment? And then you can help prioritize those initiatives together. A good example of this is Daisy works in a finance department and wants to improve her invoice processing. Currently, it takes Daisy 2 minutes to process one invoice, and she gets about 3,000 invoices a month. Daisy estimates her time is worth $50,000 a year, probably her salary, and the company values initiatives based on return on investment financially only, making this example very simple. Her team estimate to automate the letters is $50,000. That's an ROI of 1 to 1. It's not a great investment, to be fair, but this happens more than you know. Lots of times projects come to me, I look at the ROI and it's either negative or 1.3. It's a very, very poor investment of time. It's always based on the hypothesis that in years to come, it's going to make even more money or reduce costs further. It normally doesn't. And that's kind of the problem. We allow these projects to run away for a year and then realize they're not actually as good as what we first thought. Her team realizes that 80% of the invoices are from one supplier. And that could have a macro costing $10,000. It would still cost $50,000 to do the other invoices, mind you, so it's a completely separate solution. However, when you think about this, you're going to get 80% of the invoices done over $10,000, allowing you to reduce by 2,400 invoices a month. So should you split the initiative? Well, one gives you a 200% ROI over 3 years. And one gives you, by splitting it, 1,160% ROI and a minus 52% ROI for the rest. By looking at things objectively on the benefit realization and following it through and prioritizing those benefits against other benefits, you can start to realize that by splitting your initiatives or your epics or your projects into smaller deliverables, you can get a much larger return on investment. This allows your organization to map value against cost and time. All your projects can be mapped out, all your strategic initiatives can be mapped out. And you can see quite clearly on the bottom line is your internal rate of return. And then your financial model goes from obviously the bottom left up to the top right. You're going to not do anything that's below your internal rate of return. That straight away gets a no. You want to be focusing on the highest value at the lowest cost. This not only focuses people on pushing their projects down into a smaller section, a smaller subset of projects or features, but it also allows you to be continuously reprioritizing those features to maximize utilization. So as Agile teams start developing throughout your organization, Agile finance isn't something you just implement, it's something you have to do. You do this by taking advantage of the fact that they do need management accounting, they do need financial reports, and if they don't use you, they're going to lose out on competitive advantage. So let's walk through this. Someone has an idea, it goes into a single backlog. The single backlog gets prioritized by normally an executive committee based upon the ROIs that you've helped produce, or at least validated. Over time, these are going to get smaller and smaller because the ROI increases. More and more the smaller you get. Time to market decreases, your customer satisfaction increases. So overall, customer value goes up. And Agile finance teams' utilization increases as well. But this isn't where you stop. Every quarter, there should be a drawdown facility at a fixed cost. You have 100 resources costing $100,000. The idea is in every Agile team or department or Agile release train or tribe, doesn't matter what you call them, they're going to draw down on that $100,000 every quarter, based on the hypothesis that the value they're going to produce in that quarter. And you're going to hold them accountable. When they draw down $100,000 based on their plan, which is already pre-approved by executives, and you validate the information up front, they're going to ensure that every sprint that they go through, they're going to be verifying that they're going to get their ROI. Because the reports are going to show you quite clearly. Benefit utilization, benefit realization needs to be monitored at a financial level. Now, some things do take years to come up, but there should be some sort of plan that shows you these are the assumptions we make, and we've verified them. Therefore, we're still on track. If a risk is raised, that means the assumption is not correct, they need to stop that feature. Stop, reprioritize, get on to the next feature. After the quarter's complete, you are going to look at not only the assumptions, the benefits, you're also going to report on the actual costs. Did they suddenly get a new vendor in to do the work or not? You're going to be able to provide reports on a quarterly basis on their ROI to ensure that they're held accountable for the delivery of value to the customer. So as you can see, you're involved with helping prioritize the backlog, you're involved in maintaining the backlog over time, and you're involved in the post-benefit realization plan. If they do not have a benefit realization plan or a priority backlog or some form of lean canvas that shows the assumptions that they've made to increase their benefits over time, you are going to be first to know. Your reporting is now very important. So we've talked about Nirvana for you. Let's talk about things you can do right now. Right now, your projects are probably far bigger than every quarter. Right now, they're probably going over years. Strategic initiatives are probably spanning 3 years. And there's probably not actually a vision or set of values. As an Agile finance team, you need to empower the organization to understand its benefit realization plan. You need to come up with a metric how projects are done. With everybody else, obviously. You don't just do it by yourself. You need to come up with a set of values that make sense to be able to prioritize all these projects efficiently. It's not who shouts the loudest. It's based on who delivers the most customer value. That should be done first. And this is based on not only the value of each project, but on how we can maximize utilization through capacity planning. It is within your realm to do financial reports to showcase that you're not delivering maximum utilization, that benefits are not being realized, and that you need a better plan to prioritize these projects or maintain the company, at the same time as make recommendations for how much we maintain. Does your CFO know how much it costs to maintain the organization? I can almost guarantee it doesn't. Most times when I give the figure of 70 to 80% of maintenance cost, there's a shock horror on CFOs' faces. And that's because they never knew. They have OPEX and CAPEX, and they presume one or the other. But you're going to look at it from an actual operating Mirandi as opposed to a IRD audit point of view. With this knowledge in hand, you can help set up the prioritization backlog to ensure which projects are funded with the highest ROI. You can support agile transformations by focusing on reducing your risk by making them smaller, by delivering more frequently, by challenging hypotheses, by removing assumptions more frequently. This is where agile finance teams can actually lead the way during agile transformation. Everyone thinks it's IT, but HR and finance are just as important to the ecosystem of delivering an adaptable, responsible, and flexible organization. So those are things that I want you to think about right now. How can you set up a set of values that allow your organization to measure their projects effectively? How can you set up a drawdown facility that means that they are drawing down based on fixed resources and maximizing ROI on that quarter or month or year, whatever suits your organization? What problems are you going to face on this? Quite a few, actually. Mostly in transparency. You're going to look at project reports and you're going to see that they're still going. They're still doing enabler epics. And this could go on for many, many months. You need to challenge these and say, when is benefit realization going to happen? Is it happening over a year? Great. Well, this project over here will get benefit realization in 2 months. Divide it. Use net present value to ensure that you are maximizing your capital that you're using. And I mean capital, I mean the money in the bank, the people, the customers. You need to focus on maximizing that, and projects that have a time delivery in 2 months are going to be much better than over a year, which is a higher risk. Put a risk factor into it. Put everything over a month has a 0.7 ratio that you decrease over time. So that literally anything that's more than a year is now a factor of 34% of the benefits. By taking control of these environments and utilizing your own sprints, which are called month end, you'll be able to continuously adapt over each month. And if you reflect on a monthly basis, because I always find it quite funny when people say to me, Agile finance, and I'm like, yeah, well, we had sprints, they were called the month end. You repeat on a monthly basis. At the end of each month, do a reflection. And by reflection, I mean Bassott's 1998 determination of reflection. I don't mean retrospectives, I mean reflection. Look at the last month. What can you do better next month? How can you empower other parts of the organization to maximize utilization as well? So when we think about this, you're involved in every step of the way. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed a brief overview of how important Agile finance really is. We went through some pain points, a Nirvana solution that handles the entire organization, and we went through some things that you can do right now to increase customer value in your organization to help adapt your organization to respond to customer needs in a flexible way. Kia ora.